Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. Get ready because we're about to explore something pretty amazing. You heard that right. We're going deep into the world of self-growth with some seriously insightful journal prompts.
50 of them to be exact.
Oh yeah, that's right. We've got a whole treasure trove of prompts to sift through.
All thanks to Lestallion.
Lestallion.
They're the masterminds behind these prompts.
Oh, cool. So they know a thing or two about introspection.
Absolutely. They even have this awesome blog post called 50 Journal Prompts for Self-Growth. And guess what? Lestallion sells journals.
Well, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
They're walking the walk, huh?
Exactly.
All right, so let's jump right in. The first category that caught my eye is exploring your strengths.
A great place to start.
I think so too. And one prompt that immediately stood out to me was, think about a compliment you've received recently. What did it mean to you, and how does it reflect your character?
That's a powerful one.
It really is.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we get compliments, but they just kind of bounce off. This prompt forces us to actually sit with them.
To unpack them.
Yeah, exactly. To really consider what they say about us.
It's about recognizing that connection between how others see us and how we see ourselves.
So it's deeper than just a feel-good moment.
Oh, absolutely. Compliments, when they're genuine, can actually contribute to building a healthier self-image.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. It's like planting little seeds of self-belief.
Precisely.
But is there a danger in relying too much on what others say? I mean, what happens when those compliments stop coming?
That's a great question. It brings up the importance of balancing external validation with internal validation. Ultimately, we want to reach a place where our sense of self-worth comes from within.
Makes sense. So how can we use compliments to build that stronger sense of self?
Think of compliments as a mirror. They can reflect back qualities you might not always see in yourself. So instead of just saying thank you and moving on, take a moment to absorb the compliment. Ask yourself, what specific action or quality are they acknowledging?
And how does that connect to my own values?
Exactly.
I like that, using compliments as data points to understand ourselves better. Okay, let's move on to a section that might feel a bit tougher. Understanding your challenges.
Everyone's favorite, right?
Huh, not always. But facing those challenges is crucial for growth.
Couldn't agree more.
One prompt that hit home for me in this section was, reflect on a fear that holds you back. What's the root of this fear, and what's one small step you can take to face it?
We've all been there.
Oh, absolutely. That feeling of being stuck because of fear.
Fear is a universal human experience. It's often rooted in our need to protect ourselves. But when fear starts dictating our choices and stopping us from reaching our goals, that's when it becomes a problem.
It's like we become prisoners of our own fear. So how do we break free? How do we go from feeling paralyzed to taking action?
It starts with understanding that facing fears is key to developing a growth mindset. It's that belief that we can always learn and grow, that our abilities aren't fixed.
So we can actually rewire our brains to be less afraid.
In a way, yes. When we see challenges as opportunities for growth, we're more likely to push past those fears and achieve our full potential.
That's a game changer. It's like reframing fear as a signpost, pointing us toward growth. But sometimes the fear itself just feels so overwhelming. Like, where do we even begin to tackle something that big and scary?
That's where the idea of taking small steps comes in. Don't try to conquer the whole fear at once. Break it down into manageable actions.
Bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. For example, if you have a fear of public speaking, a small step could be practicing your presentation in front of a mirror.
Or even recording yourself.
Yes.
It's like building up our confidence muscle one rep at a time.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so we've talked about facing fears, but what about learning from our mistakes? There's another prompt in this section that asks us to think about a recent mistake. What did you learn from it, and how can you apply that lesson moving forward?
Mistakes. They can be our greatest teachers.
If we let them.
Exactly. The key is to shift our perspective and see mistakes not as failures, but as feedback.
Mistakes are feedback, not failures.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like we're scientists conducting experiments, gathering data, and refining our approach.
Perfect analogy.
But how do we actually extract those lessons from our mistakes? It's so easy to just beat ourselves up and get stuck in a cycle of self-blame.
You're right, it's a common trap. Instead of blaming yourself, try approaching the situation with curiosity. Ask yourself, what happened? What were my intentions? What were the consequences of my actions?
And most importantly, what can I do differently next time?
Exactly. You got it.
That's a great framework for turning a negative experience into a positive learning opportunity.
Hmm.
It's like we're taking the power away from the mistake and using it to fuel our growth. Okay, ready to shift gears a bit and talk about setting goals.
Let's shift gears a bit. This next section is all about setting meaningful goals. It's where we turn those insights into action.
Love that, from insights to action. It's so easy to get stuck in the thinking part and never actually do anything.
Absolutely.
One prompt that really stood out to me was, reflect on a long-term dream. What's holding you back, and what's one thing you can do to move closer to it?
Powerful stuff.
It really is. It reminds us that even small steps can lead to big changes.
Exactly. It's not just about momentum. It's about breaking those big dreams down into smaller, more manageable steps.
So true. Okay, let's talk about those steps. What are some practical tips for setting ourselves up for success when it comes to goals?
Well, one approach I find really helpful is the SMART goals framework.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
That's right. And using this framework can help us move from vague aspirations to concrete action plans.
I see what you mean.
For example, instead of saying, I want to write a book, a SMART goal would be, I will write one chapter of my novel every week for the next 6 months.
Wow, yeah. That second one is so much more clear and actionable,
Exactly. It's like you're creating a roadmap.
with milestones along the way.
Yes. And when you hit those milestones, it reinforces your belief in yourself and keeps you motivated.
I love that.
Yes.
So we've explored our strengths, faced our challenges, set some goals. Now it's time to tap into those passions. This next section is all about exploring your passions, uncovering what truly brings us joy.
This is where things get really fun. When we engage in things that light us up, it not only boosts our mood, but it can also boost our creativity, energy, and even our sense of purpose.
Totally agree. One prompt in this section that jumped out at me was, write about an activity that makes you feel alive. Why does it resonate with you, and how can you make more time for it?
Yes. Finding those activities that make you lose track of time.
Where you're completely in the zone.
Exactly. It's about finding that flow state.
It's an amazing feeling. But the challenge is often finding the time to pursue those passions, especially with everything else going on.
I hear you. It comes down to prioritizing, being intentional with your time.
Right. Making it a conscious choice.
Start by identifying what truly matters to you, those activities that bring you energy and fulfillment.
And then actually schedule them in.
Exactly. Even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
I love that scheduling joy. Okay, so speaking of prioritizing, this next category, embracing change, reminds us that growth often means stepping out of our comfort zones.
Absolutely. Change can be tough, but it's also essential for growth.
No pain, no gain, right?
Well, it doesn't always have to be painful, but when we embrace change, we open ourselves up to new experiences, new perspectives, new possibilities.
So true. One prompt in this section that really got me thinking was, reflect on a time when you stepped out of your comfort zone. What fears did you overcome, and how did it benefit you?
We've all had those moments, right?
Yeah, those leaps of faith that led to amazing things.
It's about remembering that stepping out of our comfort zone is a process. It's not about becoming fearless overnight.
More like building up our courage muscle.
Exactly. It's about gradually expanding those boundaries and building resilience along the way.
So, how can we make that process a little less intimidating?
Start small. Gradually increase the intensity of the challenge. Instead of diving headfirst into the deep end, dip your toes in first.
Okay, I like that.
And focus on the potential benefits of the change rather than just the fear.
Shifting our perspective.
Precisely.
It's like building a bridge between our comfort zone and the unknown, one step at a time.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, ready for the final category of prompts. This one's all about celebrating our growth.
Yes, let's celebrate all that hard work. It's easy to get so caught up in striving for the next thing that we forget to appreciate how far we've come.
So true. One prompt that really resonated with me in this section was, reflect on how you've grown in the past year. What changes are you most proud of, and how can you keep evolving?
That's a beautiful one. It's about taking stock of our journey and acknowledging those moments of transformation.
And celebrating those wins, both big and small.
Exactly. Each step forward, no matter how small, contributes to our overall growth.
It's like we're weaving a tapestry of growth, with each thread representing a moment of learning or change. But how do we actually honor and celebrate those moments? Is it enough to just think about them, or should we be doing something more?
That's a great question. It really depends on what feels meaningful to you. For some, it might be a quiet moment of reflection. For others, it might be sharing their achievements with loved ones or doing something special to celebrate.
I think it's also about recognizing that growth is a journey, not a destination.
Absolutely.
There's always more to learn, more to explore, more to become.
That's what makes it so exciting.
We're constantly evolving, expanding, discovering new parts of ourselves.
I love that.
Well, listeners, I think we've officially mined all the wisdom from this mountain of prompts. But before we sign off, I want to leave you with one final thought. Lestallion talks about how journaling for self-growth isn't just about getting to some endpoint.
It's about enjoying the ride.
Yeah, like we're on this awesome quest to figure ourselves out.
And that journal, it's like your trusty sidekick.
I love that. Really captures the spirit of the whole thing.
It's about those aha moments, those little shifts in perspective that can change everything.
And sometimes it's just about those quiet times.
Yeah,
Where we finally connect the dots and understand our thoughts and feelings a little better.
exactly. That's where those journal prompts come in.
Right? They're like guides.
Little trail markers leading you through your inner world.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive today, I want you to think of these prompts as a starting point.
Don't be afraid to go off-road, to ask yourself the tough questions.
Let your curiosity lead the way.
And remember, there's no one right way to journal.
It's all about finding what works for you.
What helps you unlock those inner nuggets of wisdom?
And most importantly, have fun with it.
Right, self-discovery should be enjoyable.
Couldn't agree more. So listeners, as we say goodbye for today, grab that journal, pick a prompt that speaks to you, and start exploring.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
A huge thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep shining.